In this lesson, you're going to learn about subtracting integers, and we're going to do this by playing a game. Okay, and so here's the game overview. In every round, each player is going to have cards in their hand, and you're going to add those cards together first to determine the sum. Then you're going to have the option to keep all three cards in your hand, or you can discard or remove one of the cards in order to get your value closest to 0. Okay, and then the goal here, the hand closest to 0 is going to be the winner. Okay, and so we have our first scenario here, game number 1. Below the three cards that are in your hand, you have a 6, a -1, and a 7. And so the first thing that we've got to determine is what your starting total is going to be. Well, in order to find the starting total, I'm going to have to add these three values together. So I'm going to have my 6 plus the -1 plus the 7. Okay, 6 plus -1 is going to give me 5. And then I'm going to add the 7 to that. 5 plus 7 is 12. And so my starting point total right now is 12 points. Okay, and so on my number line here, it says, show how close to 0 your total is on the number line. And so I'm going to have to draw an arrow starting at 0 and going 12 units to the right because it's a positive 12. Notice here that my number line only goes to 10. So I'm actually going to extend this a little bit further so I can show what I'm trying to do here. I'm going to put 11 right there. I'm going to put 12 right there. And now I'm going to draw my arrow that represents my current total, which again was positive 12. 12 units to the right of 0. So there's my current score right now of 12. Right? And again, we were told here that the goal is to get your hand as close to 0 as possible. So if I can't get any closer than I currently am, I'm going to keep all three cards. But if I can remove one of them and get closer to 0, well then that's what I'm going to do. And so I'm going to go through each of these and figure out if I should get rid of it. So the first number is 6. If I get rid of the number 6, I'm just going to pretend that that number's there. I'm only going to be left with these two cards right here, the -1 and the 7. If I add -1 and 7, that's going to leave me with a score of 6, which is closer than I currently am. So I might get rid of this number 6 card. If I choose to get rid of the -1 card, again, I'll just cover that up and pretend it's not there. I'll add these two numbers now. 6 plus 7 is 13. 13 is actually going to take me a little bit further away than I currently am. So I'm not going to get rid of this -1 card. I'm going to keep it. All right? If I choose to get rid of the 7 card, well, again, just cover that up. I'm only left with these two cards, the 6 and the -1. 6 plus -1 is 5. Okay? And that's going to get me the closest to 0 compared to if I were to get rid of that 6. Remember, that was equal to a total of 6. That's equal to a total of 5. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to remove this 7 card out of my hand. Okay? So if I remove the 7 card from my hand, well, again, my score now is only a positive 5. And so I'm going to draw another arrow that takes me from my current score of 12 back down to 5 points. So let me draw that arrow in right here. Okay. And what I've done, well, I've gone down by a total of 7 points. If I get rid of this 7 card here, my score is going to go down by 7 points. And now my score is going to be equal to 5. And so the question asked, which card would you remove to get closer to 0? We would remove the 7 card. That's going to be the card that gets us the closest to 0. Okay. Next, we have to write two different number sentences for the change that just took place. All right. And looking at this number line here, well, we've added numbers on the number line before, and so I'm going to write an addition problem. And based off of what I see in my number line here with my arrows, I could see that my addition problem would be positive 12 plus -7. Positive 12 plus -7, and that got me to a score here of 5 points. As an addition problem, 12 plus -7 is equal to 5. That's what we've been doing the last few classes. But our focus today is going to be on subtraction. And so that's what I'm going to write as well. I'm going to have a subtraction problem that represents the change that just took place. I again started with 12 points, okay? And then I decided that I was going to remove this 7 card, okay? So I'm going to take away or subtract the 7 points. So that's what I'm going to record here. I started with 12, and then I decided to take away or subtract the 7 card. And when I do 12 points minus the 7 points, that again leaves me with 5 points. Notice that this addition problem and this subtraction problem give the exact same answer. 12 plus negative 7 and 12 minus 7 are both equal to 5. Okay, and so the final question down here says, how did discarding the card change the value of your hand? Discarding the 7 card decreased. It decreased my total by 7 points. Okay, discarding the 7 card decreased my total by 7 points. In the next game scenario, we have the 3 cards, -9, 5, and -2. And we have to show how close to 0 our total is on this number line here. So again, the first thing I'm going to do is add these values together. -9 plus 5 plus -2. -9 plus 5 is -4. And then when I add -2 to -4, I end up with -6. So on my number line, I'm going to start an arrow at 0, and I'm going to have to move 6 units to the left this time because my total is at -6. And there is my current total at -6. And then again, I've got to go through these and decide, do I want to remove one of these cards because it's going to get me closer to 0, or should I keep all 3 of them? So let's go through them one at a time again. If I get rid of the -9 card, that leaves me with the 5 and the -2. 5 plus -2 is 3. So I'm going to be at 3, which is closer than -6. If I decide to get rid of the 5 card, well, I have a -9 and a -2. -9 plus -2 is -11, which is going to be 11 spaces from 0, which is further away than I currently am. So I'm not going to get rid of the 5 card. All right, if I get rid of the -2 card, that leaves me with -9 plus 5. -9 plus 5 is equal to 4, which is, is equal to -4, which is 4 units away from 0. So this combination gets me 4 units away from 0. But this combination gets me 3 units away from 0. And so the card that I'm going to remove to get closer to 0 is the -9 card. Take away that -9 card. Okay, and so now we've got to show on the number line how the value of our hand changed. We were at -6 points, but if I get rid of that card, 5 plus -2 is equal to 3. Now I have +3 points. So I'm going to draw another arrow on my number line, starting at -6 and ending at +3. So here is my second arrow. Okay, and it's ending right here at +3. And so I can see here that my score is actually going up this time. And if I count, it's going up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 points. So this is an increase of 9 points. Okay, and so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to write 2 different number sentences that show the change in my score that just took place. And again, I can write an addition problem and a subtraction problem. So let's start with the addition problem. By looking at this number line, I can see my first number was -6, and then I've added a +9, and that got me to a score of 3 points. Okay, but once again, our focus today is going to be on subtraction, so let's see if we can write a subtraction problem instead. Okay, well again, I started my hand with -6 points, and then I decided to take away or subtract that -9. So that's what I'm going to write down here. I decided to take away, which means to subtract, the -9 card. And when I took away the -9 card, when I took that away, my new total became 3 points. Okay, I ended up with 3 points. So I can see here again, this addition and this subtraction problem have the same value. -6 plus 9 is the same as -6 minus -9. They both get you to 3 points. So how did discarding this card change the value of our hand? Discarding the -9 card increased. It increased the value 9 points. Okay, it increased the value 9 points. And so our big takeaway here, okay, is if we have a subtraction problem, like -6 minus -9. -6 minus -9. Well, this subtraction problem is going to be the same as this addition problem. I can change this subtraction problem into an addition problem. Notice, the first number in the problem stays exactly the same, but then instead of subtracting, I'm adding, and I'm not going to add the -9, I'm going to add the opposite, which becomes a +9. And then both of these had an answer of 3. So I keep the first number the same, and I add the opposite of the second number, and that's how I can get the same answer. With this set of problems, I want to take the given subtraction problem and show how I would draw that on my number line. But in order to write this subtraction problem on the number line, I'm going to first change it into an addition problem. Rewrite it as an addition problem first. And so if you remember from the previous example, to change a subtraction problem into an addition problem, you keep the first number the same. So in this case, I'm going to keep the 5. And then instead of subtracting, I'm going to add. But I'm not going to add the -3. I'm going to add the opposite of -3, which is +3. So taking away -3 is the same as adding +3. And so I can show that on my number line. I'm first going to draw an arrow 5 units to the right. There's my +5. And then because subtracting -3 is the same as adding 3, I'm going to go from 5, 3 more units to the right. And that's going to give me a value here of 8. So 5 minus -3 is the same as 5 plus 3, and it gives you the value of 8. In the next example, we have 4 minus 7. And again, before I put it on the number line, I'm going to rewrite it as an addition problem so I know how to draw my arrows. So again, we take the first number and we keep it the same. I'm going to keep the 4. And then instead of subtracting 7, I'm going to add the opposite of 7, which is -7. Keep the first number, add the opposite of the second number, and now we can draw it on our number line. +4, we're going to start at 0 and go 4 units to the right. There's my +4. Now I'm going to add -7, which is going to take me 7 units to the left of 4. And in this case, I'm going to end up stopping right here at -3. There's my -7. Okay, and so if I have 4 minus 7, that's the same as 4 plus -7. That gives me an answer of -3. Very similarly with the next example, for 1 minus 6, I'm going to rewrite it as addition first. Keep 1 the same. Add the opposite of 6, which is -6. And now we can draw it. 1 unit to the right of 0 is my +1. Now we're going to add -6, so we're going to go 6 units to the left of 1, which ends me here at -5. There's my arrow of -6. 1 minus 6 is the same as 1 plus -6, which gives me an answer of -5. Okay? And so that's what I want you to do with these 3 examples down here. First, rewrite it as an addition problem, and then evaluate your answer.